In this video, I'll be talking about the iPad Pro 2020 and if you should consider upgrading your iPad. Whether you own an iPad already, you're in the market for a new iPad, or you've never used one before, it is a great way to produce music. And in this video, I'm going to break down my experience so far with the iPad Pro 2020, let you know what the good, the bad, and the ugly is all about. But if it's your first time here, my name is Pete, and this is Studio Live Today, where my goal is to help you create, record, and release your best music. I do that through tips and tricks and videos just like this one. We are here live on YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching on the replay, let me know in the comments if you have any questions as we go through this. What will we be covering today? Well, we're going to go through about 5 sections here. I've got some resources to help you decide. I'm then going to give you my conclusion right up the front because I value your time, and I know some of you will just want me to get to the point. Pete, do I consider upgrading or not? We're then going to go on a bit of a history tour of the iPads that I've used for music over times. We're looking at the good stuff, the not so good stuff, and then I've got some final thoughts for you. So that's what's in store in this one. First and foremost, though, there is a companion website to this video. So if you do want, you can actually jump over there. I'll just bring this up on the screen now, and you can take a look. So this is my iPad buyer's guide. It's over at studiolivetoday.com/iPad. If you go to that website, then you can come to the buyer's guide. And this has a bunch of information here. It's got my recommendations on the best iPads for music productions. You can search for iPads. It's got a bunch of information about what to look for in a new iPad. And my favorite feature, and mostly because it took me a long time to do, is this, which is a PDF guide that has, not that zoomed in, that has every model of iPad ever made and all of the specs that you could ever want to know about performance and about RAM and about storage capacity, and links to those as well and all the model numbers. So if you are in the market for an iPad, head on over studiolivetoday.com/iPad and you'll be able to find all of that information. But let's jump in because you want to know the details. The conclusion. I know this is a weird way to do it, but again, I want to make sure that you don't have to hang around to the end and I don't bury the lead. But if you want more information, we will dive into it. Should you update to an iPad Pro 2020? My experience so far has been great. So here's the thing. It's not surprisingly, the performance of this is amazing. I've come up from, we'll talk in a moment about it, but the iPad Air 2 is what I've been using for a very long time. And it's a little bit night and day. The performance of this, the processor in this flies along. The 6 gigabytes of RAM means that switching between apps is an absolute breeze, and the performance, it just means that things work. So the reason that I actually updated was not because my old iPad couldn't do the things I wanted it to do. It's because occasionally it would do them slowly. Occasionally I'd get errors, GarageBand users, optimizing performance, you know what I'm talking about. You'd occasionally have problems like that. For video editing, I use LumaFusion. That absolutely flies along on this. The screen is wonderful, very nice screen, highly responsive to the touch. So yeah, if you are in the market and you have the budget, but here's the thing. So here's the conclusion is that, do you need this? Do you need this thin piece of glass in your music production world? No, you can still use a bunch of other iPads. And once again, if you go over to studiolivetoday.com/iPad, everything there that you see in the gray, that's still running the latest version of iOS. And in fact, even the iPad Air 2 will be running iOS or iPadOS 14. So it's still keeping up. Apple are still keeping up with the latest and greatest of the iOS versions on your older iPads. But that all being said, this does definitely pack a punch. If you don't have the budget for the latest iPad, there's not a lot of difference between this and the 2018 model. So it actually may be a great time to actually invest in one of those. It's got an updated processor and it's got 6 gigabytes of RAM instead of 4 gigabytes of RAM, plus this new camera, which, to be very honest, I haven't actually taken a photo with this. I don't use my iPad for taking photos, so I haven't actually done that. You probably want to know what the bad is, right? So that's all the good stuff. It does everything and it does it well. The stuff that I'm not so happy with is, we got no headphone jack. So you knew that was going to come up, yeah. No headphone jack makes it a little more difficult to actually just plug in a pair of headphones if you're just doing some simple audio stuff. But the trade-off is USB-C. So USB-C is a generic standard, which means that we can use generic adapters to connect up our audio gear. You no longer need the genuine Apple gear. I know Pete's been saying for years, buy the genuine Apple adapters. When you have an iPad Pro, you can use any USB-C adapter and it plugs straight in and you're good to go, even if you buy the wrong color. So that is very cool. And the other things I'm missing, I am missing my home button. I've got to be honest with you, flicking to go to scroll between apps is hard. The Face ID, for whatever reason, I'm always got my finger on the camera, so it's hard to open with Face ID. These were basically the reasons that I didn't want to update. So the reasons that I was sticking with something like this is I thought I'm too used to Lightning. I'm too used to plugging in via Lightning, and I'm too used to having a headphone jack on the top there. I'm not going to want to go away from those. It hasn't been hello. It hasn't been a game changer. It hasn't been something that I'm looking back on and going, no, it's an absolute deal breaker. It is definitely worthwhile. So, yes, should you update? It's entirely up to you. Go and check the guide to see all the different models you can have. But yeah, for me, the best benefit of this is that it just does everything that I throw at it. So that's the main thing. If you are producing music, if you're producing video, if you're doing any sort of creativity, it just does. And I haven't even mentioned a bunch of other stuff. I know that folks like Jade Star uses the Magic Keyboard. A lot of folks use the Apple Pencil with these. I'm probably just scratching the surface of what it can do in terms of that. The other thing, final thing that I'll mention here in the conclusion is that, yeah, running a bunch of different apps at once. So being able to run a bunch of plugins, different music creating apps, running LumaFusion for video editing, all of that works really, really well. So yeah, I'm impressed. I didn't want to do a review. I didn't want to give my conclusion until I'd had enough time to actually use it in the real world. It's one thing to open up and grab a device and go, yes, it's cool, it's shiny, it's thin, it's lightweight, it does all the things. Siri, I'm not talking to you. But it's another thing to actually use it in real production. So I've been using it now over a month. It's working well. Siri just won't be quiet. I'm pressing all the buttons. So there you go. That is the conclusion. Now, I know we're going a bit backwards here, but let's go back into a little bit of a history of my iPads that I've used, because this might relate to some of you. If you're at a different position, like I was, with which iPad you're using, this might help out. So if we go right back to the start, I don't have it here because my first iPad was an iPad 2. So the iPad 2 with the dock connector, I loved it at the time. It was amazing. It did really well, but over time, yeah, it started losing a bit. But here's the thing: I didn't have to worry about replacing that one because some bugger broke into my house and stole it. So when the insurance came in, I got this. I got the iPad 4. So this is the iPad 4. You can see there, old school 30-pin dock connector, those nice chunky bezels. It's not turned on, and you can see, you might be able to see, it's got cracks all up the wazoo there. So this was my go-to machine for a long time, and many of you may still have one of these hanging around. This one doesn't work. It doesn't even turn on, and the screen is cracked. So yeah, it's just a little bit of a history item. I haven't got rid of it because maybe one day you'll refurb them and these will be like retro and all cool. I then, after I had that one went to the kids, as you can see, which is why it's all broken. I then went to the iPad Air 2, which is the one that keeps turning its Siri on. This was a absolute rock solid machine, and I still used this right up to the point where I upgraded. And I still use it now, to be honest. I still get it out. I love these covers. These Logitech any angle covers just work really well and really, really nice. So I do miss my cover. But yeah, the iPad Air 2, we switched to the Lightning dock. So we've now got the Lightning connection. We still have a headphone jack in the top there. So these are actually still, as I said, still something that you can actually use with the latest version of iPad OS 13, and you're going to be able to use with iPad OS 14. So if you're at the absolute bottom end of the market, these are a great buy. These will run GarageBand. These will run a lot of your music production in your studio. LumaFusion works great on this for video editing, as long as you're not editing a bunch of, high-level 4K stuff. And the same with music. As long as you're not throwing a bunch of different plugins at it, these are great. And similarly, the iPad 2017s and 2018s that have the same sort of specs as these are also pretty darn good. I then took a bit of a sidestep and I moved to this guy. This is the iPad 12.9 inch. This is the iPad Pro first gen. I picked this up as a bit of a sidestep while I waited for the Pro 2020. This fella is actually pretty good. Not the performance, obviously, of the 2018 or 2020 Pro. This is the first generation, but the benefit is you get the big 12.9 inch screen, you get the Lightning connector, if you're familiar with that, and you get a headphone jack. So yeah, so this is definitely something worthwhile if you're looking to pick up something secondhand refurbed. Maybe I'll have one for sale soon. Hint, hint. put that one back over on its stand. And then, of course, the final update, which was this one, which we've talked about already. We've gone up to the iPad Pro. So the beautiful part of that is, though, everything apart from the first one that's all broken, the other three are all still good music making machines and should still work fine and dandy for your music and for your workflow. So I wanted to say all that to say, use what you have to create music. I'm the last person to tell you to go out and buy expensive gear you don't need. It took me a long time. When the iPad Pro 2018 came out, people said, "Oh, Pete, it's got USB-C. You need to get one so you can review it and tell us how to plug in our USB-C stuff." And it took me like 2.5 years until this one came out before I actually did. So I will be covering some of those USB-C devices and how to connect those up here on the channel coming up soon. So that's the history stuff. Let's go back through the good stuff and do a little bit of a deep dive onto the good stuff. So I mentioned a lot of this in the conclusion, but just to give it a little bit more, the performance of this, just having something that works has been great. It's been a game changer to make sure that every time I touch something, every time I tap something, every time I want to run an app, it just runs. Again, as long as I can get in, as long as I can get into the Face ID. I'm literally looking at it. It's like your face is required. Oh no, your passcode is required now. I've done it wrong so many times it needed my passcode. So yeah, so jumping into apps is really easy and really slick. Everything works. Oh, that's telling me that an audio extension quit. You ever get that one? Yeah, I get that one a lot. So yeah, so all the apps work. It's really slick to swap between apps. Everything there is nice and smooth and just runs beautifully in the background. No problems at all. So that was not a game changer again, but just having that additional performance. The chip in these is just ridiculous. These A12 chips that are running the new versions are just amazing. So upgrading from something that like the old iPad Air that had the A9 processor, I'm really noticing the speed bump that you get there. And then the RAM. So if you weren't aware, these all have 6 GB of RAM. The main difference, as I mentioned before, between the 2018 iPad and these ones is the 6 GB of RAM. The 1 TB version of the 2018 model had the 6 GB, but all the others had 4. And that does make a difference. If you think about your PC or if you're using a Mac, having more RAM, more memory just means that you can run more stuff in the background, you get less problems, you get less slowdowns because everything's there ready to go. Excuse me. Video editing is great on this. The screen is really good to view video, handles 4K video, no problem. 4K video, high-res audio, all 100% okay. Does a great job. And again, the difference between an earlier iPad is that anything 4K, this kind of started to struggle with, and it got very slow. It wouldn't load up the video. You weren't able to scrub through and do the editing. So if you're a video editor and you're doing a lot of video work, iPad Pro is very good for that. I keep mentioning it, but things just work. I'm not running into the errors that I was before. USB-C. So I mentioned this very briefly. So you can use the genuine article. So this is the $99 here in Australia. I think it's $60 in the US. The genuine Apple USB-C to USB-A HDMI and USB-C adapter. So this one, again, plugs in just like the old Lightning dongles did and does a great job. So this is the first one I bought just to make sure I had a baseline comparison. And the beautiful part is, as you'll see, you can export HDMI at the same time as plugging in apps. That's a bit of a game changer for me, who does a lot of coaching and teaching and displaying for tutorials. Being able to have this up on a bigger screen and use my USB audio devices at the same time is something that you just can't do with a Lightning-based iPad. So that's one of the very cool things about this, is that because you can use any generic hubs and adapters, then you can actually do that. And you can even use, I don't have it even unpacked here, but you can even use like a larger laptop style hub here. If you plug it into a laptop charger, this one, I'll show you it really quickly because it's very cool, and I'll be reviewing it here on the channel shortly. If you're in the future, you'll probably be able to jump up and see it, or in the description, but you can get something like this that has not only USB and HDMI and USB-C, but you've got 2 more USB ports, you've got SD card readers, you've got a network connection there, so you can plug it into your wired network. So you can use a whole bunch of different adapters, or again, you could use something like this, which just has the exact same stuff as the other one. But look, a headphone jack. Yes, it's true. It's so easy to get a headphone jack on these things because once you plug that in, you've got a headphone jack. So you've got your USB, your USB-C for charging, HDMI, and a headphone jack. And these things are about half the price of the Apple version. So yes, I know, Pete's been telling you for how long that you need to buy the genuine Apple Lightning to USB adapters, which you still do, but with USB-C, You don't. So keep that in mind. Battery life on this is just ridiculous. Like I literally haven't, I don't keep it plugged in. I do my normal processing work in the day, which is doing a lot of music, a lot of video editing. I just haven't run out of battery. So it hasn't reached the point where I've run out for a day's work. And the same can't be said for things like the iPad Air 2. As you know, it's more about the newness. And this is something to keep in mind. If you're buying a second hand or a refurb even, refurb's not so bad. Sometimes they'll replace the battery. But if you're buying a second hand iPad, and I do recommend it, it's a great way to get a lot more bang for your buck, just have a close look at the battery or ask about the battery life, because the older it is, if it's original battery, it's just going to start fading and you're not going to get the performance over time. And if you've got a nice mobile device like this, you don't want to be constantly looking for power to plug it in. The screen quality, we've talked about it already, but the screen, if I can turn it on, again, I'm still not used to the flick up. The screen quality is just wonderful. Yeah, you won't get it on the webcam here, but it just looks beautiful and yeah, nice high resolution. It's Apple. They do their nice liquid retina displays, and it always looks very nice there. Storage spaces. So my iPad Air 2 had 64 gigabytes of space, and these go up to 128 as a maximum, whereas this is the 512 gigabyte. Why is that important? Well, it's not so much about the fact that I need that much space for my current workflow, but it just means I'm not constantly fighting this battle of what do I delete? What do I need to take off my device to make sure I can keep doing what I'm doing? So that's something I've found that when I updated my phone and my iPad, I went for more storage space and I have never regretted it. So if you have a budget, I would actually honestly say if you had a budget between two iPads, one was higher end but lower storage space and one was slightly lower but it had 256 or 512 of storage, I would actually go with the more storage. I think that over time, you'll find that more frustrating than the slight performance bump or the slight speed bump that you'll get getting something that's like absolutely brand new. So I would probably say if you could get a 2018, as long as the battery was okay, 2018 iPad Pro that had 512 compared to a brand new one that was only 128, I'd probably go the last one. Again, unless you want the fancy schmancy camera that I've never used, then maybe not. And I've mentioned the memory as well. So they're all the pluses. They're all the things that I'm really liking about this. As I said, I went into this completely just saying, I'm going to use this. I'm going to test it. Every time I had a frustration or something that I was impressed with, I noted it down, and that was what it was. So they're the goods. What about the not so good? Well, as you'll already know from the conclusion, there aren't as many not so goods as there are goods, which is a good thing. The number one not good, you've seen me grapple with it already, is I'm not a fan of Face ID. I don't know what it is, but it just never quite works that well for me. Like when I've got my phone out and I'm trying to use Apple Pay and I'm flicking the thing up and I'm just like, hang on a sec, my phone needs to make sure it's really me. So things like that. So yeah, I did prefer the button. And obviously, we're not going back. It's kind of like the headphone jack we'll talk in a moment. We're not going back to the button, but it would be nice to have because I just found it so much easier using Touch ID than using the Face ID. But because we have Face ID, we're with it. Again, is it a deal breaker? No. Am I used to it? I'm getting there. It's been over a month. You'd think I'd be used to it now. I'm getting there. And once it's docked, once it's sitting there on my desk and I'm not moving around, I just flick it up and it recognizes me and we're good to go. It's when I pick it up, for some reason, where's the front-facing camera? There it is. That's where the front-facing camera is. And that just happens to be exactly where I hold an iPad when I pick it up and use it. Because where else are you putting your thumbs? You're holding it like this, you're holding it like this. No, that's the logical place to put it, on the bezels, on the outside, so you're not touching the screen. But that happens to be where the camera is. So small issue, but yeah, one that I've been grappling with a bit. No headphone jack, as I mentioned before. It's not a big deal. You can get the dongles, of course. You can get the USB-C to headphone jack dongles. I have one. I don't use it that much again because whenever I'm doing audio stuff, I'm usually here in the studio on this. And I didn't mention it, but I did buy the 11-inch, as you can tell, and I bought that for portability. In the current situation in the world, let's just say I'm not going many places, so I haven't really tested the portability. So maybe when I start using this on the go, I'll miss the headphone jack a lot more. But for the time being, actually not a bad deal, not a big deal. So headphone jack being missing, yeah, not that bad. And especially since I can throw this in my kit bag and this doesn't require any additional power. So this just plugs straight in and then I have my headphone jack with me wherever I go. So that just sits on the side there and I have my headphone jack. It does, there is a problem. The case I have doesn't fit this. in there because you can see it's a little sucker like that. So I'll either need to get an adapter cable longer term or a different case, which I probably will as well. I got a very cheap case. If you're wondering on the case that I got, it's this one. It's just a cheap one from Officeworks here in Australia, a Targus case that was like $20. I need to upgrade that at some stage. I bought this because I'm like, maybe I'll get the Magic Keyboard, and then I didn't because I still can't quite bring myself to pay $500 for a keyboard. I think I paid $500 for this. I think this was $500 entirely for the entire iPad Air 2, or about that anyway. So I couldn't do it. What else is in the not so good? USB-C. Now, I mentioned that it was a good thing, and it is. Overall, it's a good thing. But I know that some of you have been saying that you have a lot of lightning-based gear. So a lot of the Apogee gear is lightning. I've got things like the MV88, the microphone from Shure, that is a lightning microphone. That won't be able to be used with this. So yeah, there are some drawbacks there in terms of the having the USB-C, because there's kind of no backward compatibility. So it probably would have been nice, and maybe it exists. Let me know in the comments if it does exist. If there was something that could convert this port back to a lightning port so that you can plug in your stuff, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? But as it stands at the moment, no, we've just got the USB-C. We can't plug in any of our lightning gear into USB-C and convert it. Again, there's probably a way. I haven't found an easy way to do it. That being said, most of the gear, and the reason that I recommend things like the iRig Pro IO, if you're going with an interface that's for lightning, is most of them these days are coming with lightning as well as either USB-A or USB-C. So USB-A stuff is super easy to convert. Again, you can just grab one of these suckers and plug it in carefully, and then you've got your USB port on the go, or you can just use a standard adapter. That's the other good thing. I meant to mention this as the good thing. The power on these is enough to actually run a whole interface. So for my Steinberg UR22C that I use, you can plug that in just with a USB-C to USB-C cable, and it works. So you don't need, and the same with a USB-A interface, as long as you've got the converter from A to C, you can plug that directly in here and it will work. So that's actually super handy. You don't need powered USB hubs or AC power or portable batteries and things like that if you're on the go. Even if you've got your big USB-A interface, it'll plug in and it'll work. So that is definitely a good part. But I honestly, because my studio setup here, you might have seen it if you've watched the show before, my studio setup here is all based around Lightning. So I've got my powered USB hub, my Lightning to USB adapter, and then everything just works off that. It's not been that hard. All I've had to do is convert that USB-A to USB-C, and everything's fine with the different adapter, but it's just taking some getting used to. And yeah, the one last thing that is annoying me, and again, if you're getting the 2018 or 2020 model without the home button, it's just the way it's going to be. But the app switching, I just find it not that intuitive. So as the old home button with the tap and the double tap and then just flicking between, again, it's probably a muscle memory thing at this stage, but I just found that so much easier. But with this one, to have to flick up and hold and then move around and then tap and then flick up and, oh, I'm on the side now, and then flick up, hold again, move sideways. Again, it's not a deal breaker. It's just taking me a while because I'm so used to the home button, and I was a bit of a home button ninja with how I use that. It was a little bit difficult to do. That's it. That is my bad. So there's not a whole lot in the way of the bad. There's an awful lot in the way of the good when we've broken that down. So let's jump into the conclusion here. I know we had the conclusion at the start, but this is my final thoughts on this. Final thought number one is use what you have right now to create music. This, upside down, this was never meant to be a, look at my shiny iPad Pro now, everyone go out and buy one. This is not for everyone. I'm telling you right now, this is not for everyone. This is barely for me. This is only great for me because I do so much audio and so much video work that having a reliable device like this that just works first time, every time, is a really good thing for me. Do you need to spend $1,500 or $2,000 on this iPad Pro? If you're using things like GarageBand or just using Audio Pro or Cubasis, probably not. The option is there if you want the highest end stuff, but don't go out. I know, I'm telling you, I'm doing a review. I say I love it, and now I'm telling you not to buy it. But don't go out and just think you have to get this to create music. Use what you have. If you are looking to update or upgrade, hey, it's going to give you the best performance. There's no significant downside that would say get an earlier one instead of this. The way that I look at it with iPads right now is look at your budget and then look at what you're actually doing. And then again, if you jump over to the guide, go to studiolivetoday.com/iPad, and you'll be able to see all the different models that you have there. I'll just bring up the thing there. There you go. Studiolivetoday.com/iPad. You'll be able to see all the different models. And as we get down here to the 4th gen at the bottom here, the price goes up significantly, but you do get a big bump. You've got the A12Z octa-core processor, 6 gig of RAM, up to a terabyte. So there's a lot of reasons to update, but a lot of it, look at this big chunk of grey here. You've got everything from the Mini 4 through all of the iPad Pros and iPad Airs. You've got the Air 2 all the way up to the Air 3. So there's a heap of different options that you have. You don't need to get the latest and greatest to be able to run the latest operating system. All of those will run iOS or iPadOS 14, and they'll still do a great job with your music creation as well. So yes, look at your budget. Think about storage. That's a big one. Make sure that you consider the amount of storage that you'll need, because producing video and audio files takes up a lot of room. Think about the processing, because it'll use a lot of grunt if you're using a lot of third-party apps and other plugins at the same time. And then yeah, just work out what's going to be best for you based on that. So I hope you found this useful. If you were considering this, if you've got a current iPad, if you're in the market for an upgrade, or you've never used one before and you're thinking, what's this iPad music production thing all about? Hopefully that helped you. Once again, there's some links down in the description with some more information about iPads for music production. Hope you found this useful, and I'll see you next time.